All right, hello, my name's Angie. Today we're going to be working on the back exercises that we do here at Farrell's. We're going to be concentrating on squeezing our shoulder blades together behind us. We're going to concentrate on keeping our abs tight as we go through these exercises. We want to keep our pelvis. We don't want our pelvis to tilt forward and have that arch in our lower back. That's going to hurt your back. So we want to make sure that you keep your abs tight, keep that pelvis tilted so that you don't hurt anything in your lower back area. We're going to start with a standing one-arm row. You can do this with a long band. You can also do it with a figure-8 band, or if you have a dumbbell. I'm going to use the figure-8 band. You're going to hold that band underneath your right foot and then your opposite hand. So right foot, left hand. You're going to take a lunge step back, a couple feet, and you're going to make sure that your shoulders stay squared up to the front of the room. What we don't want to have you do is twisting so that your shoulders face the side of the room. So keep those squared up. You're going to bring that handle, leading with your elbow, back to your hip as you turn your hand over. So we start with our palm down, bring it back to our hip, and flip it over. Now, as you start banding up, you may find that it's hard it may be tough on your wrist to flip your hand all the way over. As long as you're turning it so at least that your palm faces your body at the top of the move, that's okay. You want to focus on that shoulder blade behind you, really squeezing back there. Be careful that you're not bringing your elbow out. You want to bring it straight back behind you on the standing one-arm row. We're going to move on to the seated row next. With all of the seated back exercises that we do, you're going to wrap the band the same way. You're going to lay the band on top of your feet, and then you're going to wrap it around toward the inside of each foot. All right? Now, with all of these exercises, the wider your feet, the harder it's going to be. So you can challenge yourself by starting with your feet wider, and then as you start to reach muscle failure, if you need to bring that stance in a little bit narrower, you can. With the seated exercises, make sure you've got your abs tucked, your back is nice and tall, shoulders are rolled back. You don't want to have those shoulders creeping up to your ears, and you don't want to have them rolling forward. Rolled back. We're going to start the seated row with our palms down, our handles are down, and we're going to bring those handles back to our hips as we either flip them palm up or palms facing our hips, leading with our elbows and squeezing those shoulder blades behind us. You really have to focus on pinching those shoulder blades back there. Pop your chest out and resist back in. Out and then back in. Okay? Now, a couple variations on this. We'll do seated cross row, and that's where we just cross our handles. Band is wrapped the same way. This one we're going to lead with our elbow coming up. So we're leading up. Make sure your wrist stays straight. You don't want to have your hand bending down like this at the top. If you bend up too much, that may start to happen, or if you let your elbows drift down. You want to keep those wrists in line, hands in line with your arms. Back's nice and tight, straight, abs are tight, and you're bringing those handles up back to your shoulders, squeezing those shoulder blades, and resisting back down. You're going to feel this a little bit higher between those shoulder blades. Really got to focus on that squeeze. One other variation on this is seated cross low row. We've got the handles still crossed. Instead of bringing the handles back to our shoulders, we're going to bring it back to the bottom of our rib cage. So this is going to work a little bit lower in our back. We're still leading with the elbows. We're still keeping those wrists nice and straight, and we're bringing those handles back to our elbows. Back to our rib cage. One other seated exercise that we do is using the exer bar, and if you don't have one of these, that's okay. You're still going to wrap the band the same way. Lie it on top of your ankles, wrap it around toward the inside of your feet. If you don't have a bar at home, use the band, but you just want to make sure you keep your hands in a static, palms up position. We're going to use that bar, and we're going to draw it back to our belly button, squeezing our shoulder blades, popping our chest, and then resisting back. Squeeze and back. We always want to pause at the top with any exercise that we're doing, really get that muscle squeeze, and then resist back in. While I'm down here, we're going to do kneeling one arm row. You can do this with a figure eight, with an O-ring. You can also do it with a dumbbell. Two ways to do this. You're gonna have the band underneath your left foot, right foot, left hand. And from a kneeling position, you wanna have that elbow on your knee, leaned over. You're gonna draw that elbow straight back behind you and then resist back down. If you're upright like this, you're working more shoulder tricep. So you gotta make sure that you're bent over like this, bringing that handle back to your hip, and then resist back down. If you're ready for a challenge, you can pop up on that toe, elbow is still on that knee, and bring that handle back to your hip, and then resist back down, all right? One last exercise with our back. Bent over reverse fly. This is a challenging one. It works your back if you do it correctly. If you do it incorrectly, you're gonna feel it in your shoulders. So we're gonna put that band underneath our front foot. If we leave our handles uncrossed, it is easier. Crossing our handles makes it more challenging. So we're gonna have that band under our front foot. We're gonna take a nice deep lunge step back. And then we're gonna take our chest and we're gonna come all the way down, facing the floor. You wanna make sure that you keep your back nice and flat as you come down. You don't have your shoulders rounded over. We don't have a curve in our back. Nice flat back. And then we have our hands outstretched. And we're bringing them up, squeezing between those shoulder blades, and resist back down. Keep tension on the band the whole time. Up, and then back down. And I lied, we have one more back exercise, standing cross low row. Standing on that band with both feet. The wider your stance, the harder, the more challenging it will be. You're gonna cross those handles, and then you're gonna bend your knees and cheat your hips back behind you a little bit. Again, we're making sure that we're not rounded over. We've got shoulders rolled back, little bit of an arch in our lower back. We don't wanna be rounding over. So abs are tight, and then shoulders up, back, roll back. And we're bringing our handles back to our hips, resisting back down. Squeeze, popping our chest, resist back down. All right? If you have any questions on back exercises, let me know.